right here on this campus. We have a rich history of leading the way in higher education to address many of life's most pressing and critical issues. Today, we are graduating cybersecurity analysts, artificial intelligence experts to protect businesses and our nation, nurses and teachers to address the workforce shortages, scientists to address climate change and food insecurity, and social scientists who can help meet the growing concern for behavioral and mental health in our communities and across the nation. These are just some of the many examples of impactful programs you will find here at BSU. In fact, Bowie State University is the first and only HBCU in Maryland offering a full degree program at a correctional facility to help reduce recidivism. That is life-changing. It is major and life-changing. And so I want to, at this time, just express our deep appreciation for the opportunity to host today's press conference. And without further ado, I'd like to bring to the microphone the public defender for the great state of Maryland, Natasha Dartig.
Good morning. I am Natasha Dartig, Maryland State Public Defender, and I am extremely happy and excited to be here today. And I'm kind of embarrassed to say my first time here at Bowie State University, but I do want to say thank you to our host, President Dr. Breaux, as well as Dr. Adams, the Director of the Institute for Restorative Justice and Practices, and the phenomenal students of Bowie State University. In recognizing Bowie State as a partner in this venture, particularly at this moment, I do want to acknowledge and am sensitive that the issue of crime impacts us each personally, regardless of where we are in the state, even in the sanctity of our college campuses. As a graduate of an HBCU myself, the illustrious Howard University School of Law, I take great pride in being here today at a sister HBCU to share in this historical announcement. The solutions to the obstacles we face can be found in institutions of higher learning, such as Bowie State. I am honored and privileged to be here to share the stage with the individuals that you see here today, but in particular my partner, Attorney General Anthony Brown. And I want to say a sincere thank you not only to Attorney General Brown, but also to his team for the past few months of the work that we have all been doing together. But I do want to say a personal thank you to A.G. Brown for having the vision and the understanding that his duty to protect Maryland requires investment in people and building of communities. And I also want to say thank you to A.G. Brown for taking the bold step to partner with the Office of the Public Defender, because we are tasked with defending the people. Because the truth is, the OPD and the OAG are traditionally seen as opposite forces in the courtroom, adversaries on different sides of criminal law issues. But today, we stand firmly together in collaboration. And why? The reason is simple. Mass incarceration, which is the systematic cycling of people from poor, marginalized communities in and out of jails and prisons, is a crisis in Maryland. And that crisis disproportionately harms Black individuals and requires increased leadership and commitment for it to end. Strengthening communities, reducing racial biases, and responding to the underlying drivers of crime, which is in fact poverty, are the most effective to increasing public safety. And they are also the keys to eliminating mass incarceration. So through partnership, deepened understanding, and a shared vision, we come together to eliminate the causes of mass incarceration. Today, we together are launching the Maryland Equitable Justice Collaborative. MEJC, as we'll affectionately call it, is the first ever advocacy partnership between the Attorney General and the Public Defender. MEJC will amplify the voices of marginalized communities in different ways and bring renewed focus to the development and implementation of meaningful and sustained criminal justice reform. Past policies have not and are not working. Since the Crime Bill of 1994, we as a country and Maryland as a state has engaged in decades upon decades of incapacitating individuals, tearing apart families, and crushing communities. Half of all Americans have an immediate family member who has been incarcerated. 1 in 5 people have a parent incarcerated. And 2.6 million children have a parent who is currently incarcerated. Now, to visualize this, what does 2.6 million look like? It is the combined populations of Prince George's, Montgomery, Baltimore County, and Baltimore City. This is not only a national problem, it is a cancer that infects Maryland. Maryland incarcerates the highest percentage of African Americans in the country, and sentences for black individuals are substantially higher than those imposed on white individuals for the very same offenses. Nearly 80% of the people serving sentences for more than 10 years are black, and that's in comparison to the Maryland population overall is only 30% black. 41% of black individuals serving lengthy sentences entered prison as children or as young adults. Furthermore, we know that children of incarcerated parents on average are 6 times more likely to become incarcerated themselves. Disproportionate arrests, convictions, and sentences have devastated families and communities of color throughout Maryland. But I will pause for a moment and speak about the elephant in the room. It is no coincidence that I stand here as the first person of color to lead the Maryland Office of the Public Defender. And it is no coincidence that my esteemed partner in this effort is the first person of color to lead the Office of the Attorney General. We understand the assignment we are given. We are at a crucial point in history and must take firm hold of the opportunity. We are the solution to the problem of mass incarceration. Within the last 20 years, changes have enhanced the lives of Maryland. Amongst my personal favorite has been the enacting the policies of police reform. Key in all of the work was collaboration, coming together of government leaders, community advocates, and institutions of higher learning, including our HBCUs. So similarly, we are here today in collaboration to improve the lives of all Marylanders. We have taken the experiences of OPD, OAG, our education partners, and our community stakeholders. We have met and spoken with neighbors and leaders in barbershops, impacted persons at neighborhood programs, and community stakeholders by Zoom. We are here today as a Maryland Equitable Justice Collaborative. I thank the esteemed group of individuals joining in the work of MEJC, those present today, and those who could not join us this morning. I do give a special thanks and much heartfelt thank you to my team at the Office of the Public Defender, and I would like those who from OPD to please raise your hands. But we will all work together. MEJC will work to uplift marginalized communities and develop meaningful reforms that end the cycling of people through Maryland's jails and prisons. But I do have an ask, and it is a simple one, but it is 4 parts. And the ask is for you to join in the solution. Number 1 is to participate in the MEJC public forums, to share ideas and provide feedback. Number 2 is to invest in community-based services that address poverty, mental illness, and addiction. 3 is to encourage investment in reentry programs. And 4, to support the legislative efforts of MEJC. With that, I say thank you and introduce my partner, Attorney General Anthony Brown.
Again, good morning. How's everybody doing? All right, that's my partner, Natasha Dartig, the public defender of the state of Maryland. A round of applause. Natasha and I met for the first time when she attended my swearing in. I was a bit taken back and surprised, but very pleased that the public defender attended the swearing in of the 47th Attorney General of the state of Maryland. I said to Natasha then, I've said it to her on multiple occasions since, and today we say it publicly that we are true partners in ensuring that the systems of justice in Maryland are in fact just. So I thank you for your partnership, Natasha, and to your colleagues from the Office of the Public Defender. Where's the Office of the Attorney General in the House? Okay, thank you for being here. So protocol has been established. Folks have been acknowledged and thanked for their presence and their participation. I do want to add David Trone, representative, a member of Congress, who's been very active in public safety and in reform efforts, and representing the Maryland congressional delegation, is joining us here today. So good morning, and thanks to each and every one of you for being here for what I think is an important announcement, the launch of the collaborative at a very critical moment in the history of our state. I've been in public service for about 25 years. If you count my military, it's been 40. 25 years in service to the people of Maryland in this country. I've had the privilege to participate in a number of initiatives that were designed to change lives and impact lives, to improve lives, and in some cases to even save lives. Repealing the death penalty, veterans' behavioral health initiatives, initiatives around domestic violence and sexual assault, reducing the number of children in foster care, implementing the Affordable Care Act. And today, this launch and this announcement represents for me what I believe in the 25 years that I've been in service to the state of Maryland and the people of this country will be the most impactful initiative to change the lives of Marylanders. And I'm very excited to be a part of this and honored to have this opportunity. As a black man in America, as the first African-American Attorney General, the father of 3 black men, young adults, I say to you today that the over-incarceration, the mass incarceration of black men and women in Maryland is a crisis. It is something that we all know, no matter the color of our skin, that the vast majority of the faces of the people who are taken from our communities and put behind bars are African American men and women in Maryland. This is a crisis. What many do not know is how severe and deep the crisis runs in Maryland. It is, as the public defender mentioned, with the numbers that she shared, and I will reiterate them because they are deserving, they warrant, they demand to be repeated. It is the worst in the United States of America. African Americans we make up around 30% of the population in Maryland, but we also make up a staggering 71% of the prison population. That percentage is the worst in the country. When it comes specifically to black men, we make up approximately 14% of the population here in Maryland. Yet, we are 73% of the male prison population. And black men lead in a very notorious way when it comes to long prison sentences. Black men in Maryland are serving the longest sentences. Nearly 8 in 10 Marylanders who are in prison 10 years or more are black men. And 40% of those entered prison as a young adult. Marylanders need to know the extent of this crisis, and policymakers need to understand the reasons why and the ways in which we can address this crisis. Why is a black man in Maryland more likely to be arrested? Why are we more likely to be held in pretrial detention and charged? Why am I less likely as a black man to be offered a diversion program? 7 times more likely to be falsely convicted? And why is a black man in Maryland 6 times more likely to be sent to prison? Why? And for black women, the landscape is just as dismal. While nearly 16% of the residents in Maryland are black women, they make up nearly 53% of the female population that is incarcerated in our state. Our criminal system is permeated with racial bias and a discriminatory inertia that renders it unjust for far too many. And that is what both the public defender and I believe. As Natasha mentioned, the attorney generals and my assistants, the public defenders and her assistants, often find themselves in a court of law on the opposite sides or different sides of the courtroom. Adversaries. But for adversaries in effort to seek the truth. And today we stand here united around one issue, and that issue is to improving the criminal justice system so it serves each and every Marylander alike. Our collaboration is significant, if not historic. We're both committed to ensuring the justice system is fair. Together, and with urgency, we are launching the Maryland Equitable Justice Collaborative. And we're proud to do it in partnership with our academic partners. You'll hear from Judge Alexander Williams and the Center for Justice at the University of Maryland College Park. We've heard from Dr. Bro, and we'll hear from Dr. Adams about the Institute for Restorative Justice and Praxis here at Bowie State. And I'll reiterate, the first HBCU in the state of Maryland. So what we are doing and what you see behind me, we are harnessing the knowledge, the passion, the experience and understanding from within government, academia, and private and community groups. The enormity of this crisis demands it. There are representatives from over 40 advocacy and policy and community organizations, many of whom have been diligently working on this issue for quite some time. And for that, we're grateful, and I'm humble. And we're going to work together to build on that work. Through this collaborative, we'll examine existing laws and policies and practices, as well as the biases within the system and our culture, and recommend a new way of doing business. We'll dig into the points of entry in the criminal justice system. We'll zero in on recidivism. We'll work to create an environment for successful reentry. As the state's chief legal officer, public safety is one of my top priorities. And I know I share that commitment and that value with our governor, Governor Moore. And I also share his value and his commitment that we'll leave no Marylander behind. If you commit crime or violence, you will be held accountable, no matter the color of your skin. But, and I've said this so often, we are not going to investigate and prosecute our way to safer neighborhoods. Not in Maryland, we won't. We most certainly are not going to prosecute our way to safer neighborhoods in an unjust system. We know this because in communities where you see high rates of incarceration, you see crime go up, not go down. The public defender and I have been in the community together over the past several weeks. Open ears, open mind, and with an open heart. The frustration and pain in these conversations is palpable. You can feel it. But we also felt the determination and belief that together we can affect change. We heard from men who entered the system as children and walked out as old men. We heard about the difficulties accessing programs to better prepare themselves for life on the outside. And we heard a lot about mental health. Despite the darkness in this particular state of affairs, I am encouraged and hopeful. And I'm emboldened at this moment. With the people that we have around the table, we will impact lives. We will change trajectories for families and generations to come, and we will end the seemingly nonstop, unrelenting mass incarceration of black men and women in Maryland. So, let's get to work. And with that, let me call to the podium Dr. Judge Alexander Williams.
Thank you so much, and let me start by thanking Dr. Bro and her leadership team and this university for hosting this historic event. And when I say historic, when you're talking about a partnership between the Attorney General and the Public Defender and Bowie State University, of course, my center, that is very, very historic to address what I consider to be one of the most devastating, unfair things that has happened in America. Let me deviate for a second to tell you that I have been part of the problem. I have served as a public defender many years in Prince George's County as defense attorney. I was then the elected state's attorney here in Prince George's County for 2 terms, and I served on the federal bench for 20 years. So my hand has been a part and parcel of some of the issues that we're going to be focusing on today. I will say after 20 years, I left the federal bench. I loved it, but what I hated about the federal bench was the sentencing guidelines, which compelled me to issue long sentences, a lot of life sentences for drug offenses, particularly on the cocaine crack disparity that was just unfair. So I've had a hand in it, and my suggestion here today is this. We're opening up the discussion, we're lifting up the discussion, but all of us, whatever role you have in the administration or the implementation of policies affecting criminal justice, let's work together and let's try to address the causes and consequences that result in this massive incarceration. What drives me and my center, the Center for Education, Justice, and Ethics at the University of Maryland, what drives us would be the disparities. And that's a passion that I have, because the face of injustice is just awful from my perspective. And so one of the issues that I'm going to be dealing with would be how to come together and to come up with some solutions to the massive incarceration. You heard Attorney General Brown. You heard him talk about Maryland with 31% of the population being African Americans, yet 70% of the prison population is African American. That's unacceptable. and we're going to do something about that. And so I'm just glad to be part of this partnership. This is a historic moment. I have a few slides I'm going to share with you in a few minutes, so I'll just stop my conversation right now. But thank you all for having me, Attorney General Brown, Public Defender Dartig, and Bowie State University, and the President. Thank you for having my center be part of the partnership. Now, I don't have a large staff like you all have people to stand up, and so, but I do have some dedicated staff. Can y'all stand up? Stand up. All right. And so we're doing our part. Thank you so much. Now, who am I to introduce? Dr. Adams? All right, come on up. Yes, Dr. Adams at Bowie State University. Give him a hand.
I appreciate you, good brother. Wow. Judge Williams, you make it difficult to follow that act. I'm just saying. Good morning. Good morning. I am Charles Adams, the Executive Director of the Restorative Justice and Practice Institute here at Bowie State University. And we are so honored and excited to be a part of this initiative. You heard the numbers. You heard the call. And let me say this to AG and the Public Defender. Bowie State University is answering your call. We believe in being solution-oriented. We're in the community every day, fighting that good fight, recognizing that we exist because we want to help the marginalized communities, those underserved communities that many people are left behind. But we know at Bowie State University we can make a difference. So we're excited to be a part of this initiative. And let me give you 3 reasons why we're uniquely qualified to be here. Number 1, the Restorative Justice and Practice Institute is the only one in existence in the state of Maryland, and one of just a handful nationally. We train school teachers, criminal justice personnel, juvenile justice officials, the faith-based organizations. We train anyone and everyone around restorative practices, restorative justice, because we believe in second chances. And that's why in 2019 we went to the Jessup Correctional Facility and we launched our BS program for incarcerated citizens under the Second Chance Pell Grant, because we believe in second chance. Because we said, if not us, then who? If not us, then who? Because many of those people behind the walls look like me. But for the grace, go I. So we're passionate about what we're doing. We're also, come spring 2024, we're launching a job pilot program for the women at Jessup. Led by my colleague, Dr. Matasha Harris. She's going inside and building that bridge from incarceration to the community. Because we believe in second chances. We believe in what we're doing. We believe that we can make a difference. And finally, but not least, my colleagues and I, as researchers, we've been very instrumental in the work of trying to make the system fair, of making sure that the system's equitable. In 2021, my research team, we worked on racial impact statements for the legislature that led to the Police Accountability Act. So we were very instrumental in making sure that the police are held accountable. And now we find ourselves once again examining some measure of the criminal justice system and asking ourselves, can we make a difference in leveling the playing field? And I truly believe we can. And I truly believe we will. But it's going to take all of us. We cannot just have a press conference and move on. We can't just take a photo op. This has been going on for too long. It's systemic. It's rooted in our past, but it does not have to be our future. So thank you, and I'm looking forward to just rallying the troops. And before I leave, all my BSU people, stand up and recognize. Appreciate you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You've heard again and again about the impacted individuals. I am Earl Young. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Office of Attorney General, Office of Public Defender, and the host, Bowie State University, for this wonderful opportunity. I am extremely grateful to be a part of the Maryland Equitable Justice Collaborative. This is a historic opportunity to participate in such an event. I stand before you after spending nearly 35 years inside Maryland's Division of Corrections Institutions. My reentry has been slow, but I've made meaningful strides for myself as well as my community. Today, I'm a credible messenger. I'm a mentor. I'm a speaker, and I'm an entrepreneur. My work centers around influencing young lives and returning citizens who have spent lengthy prison sentences. Currently, I work for New Vision Youth Services under the leadership of Bishop Billy Stanfield inside of Baltimore City Schools. I deal with the at-risk individuals in the schools, and I'm a part of the Mayor's Office of African American Male Engagement Program with the individuals that are at risk in the streets. I am also a part of Johns Hopkins Outreach Coordinating Program, the Baltimore Youth Film Arts. I love giving back to individuals who were and who are like me. I'm extremely appreciative to lend my voice and lived experience to bringing about meaningful change to the policy and procedures throughout the Division of Corrections. It is also noteworthy that I mentioned that I was a part of removing the governor from the process, the parole process. It was an honor to lend my voice to the Juvenile Restoration Act. My sincere hope is that we can find ways to reduce incarceration and make our communities safer at the same time. I think we can do this when we provide youth and their families support and mentorship. Behavioral health services to help people heal from trauma. Creating effective alternatives to incarceration, and actively promoting rehabilitation from the day an individual enters institutions. And lastly, allowing rehabilitated individuals a meaningful opportunity to give back to their communities. Thank you.
Good. So, look, that concludes essentially our announcement, our launch, the press portion. I know there'll be what? Oh, do I have someone else going?
No, media questions.
Oh.
Q&A. Just media questions.
Oh, we're going to do that now? Okay, good. All right. Yeah, okay. Got it. Good. Okay, first question. Yes.
Morning.
Morning.
Mr. Young kind of touched on it a little bit in terms of how you balance it out to make communities safer, but also in mass incarceration, which has been around for hundreds of years. How will you do that, sir? Oh, I'm sorry. I'll repeat the question. That better?
Yeah.
All right, thank you. I'm William Ford, right in Maryland Matters, so introduce myself. But as I was asking, Mr. Young had mentioned about making it a balance of keeping communities safe, but also in sustainability. systemic racism, mass incarceration has shown. How will you do that, sir, when there's black, white, Asian, purple, who are saying, help us, we're hurting? And if you want to, Madam Public Defender.
Yeah, in fact, I'm going to yield to the public defender on that one.
So essentially, especially when we talk about public safety, we have to expand our understanding and vision because it is more than just policing. Police respond to crime, they don't prevent crime. So we have to come from that level of understanding. And coming from that level of understanding, we have to go, what is the root of the problem? We know that the root, especially when we talk about crime, is poverty. It is lack of opportunity. It is lack of adequate housing, education, mental health services. So essentially, if you go to the root of the problem, which we have not done historically, and which MEJC is going to do in a collaborative effort, is to go to the root of the problem, then we will change all of those things in the long run. Because simply we know locking people up, we've done it for decades and decades and decades, and it has not made our neighborhoods any safer.
Great. Well, thank you. So what you're going to see at the end of this portion of the program, we're going to have sort of an organizational meeting. We are a collaborative that will be organized by committees covering down on things, looking at reentry, looking at issues prior to engagement in the justice system, looking at policing and police practices, and a number of other committees organized around different issues and aspects of this system. The solutions, and no one, certainly as a collaborative, pretends to have all the answers. It's going to come in a combination of recommended legislation and budgets, realignment of existing resources, stronger collaborations between government and private entities, education and practices in organizations, whether it's police or whether it's our schools. And this is a problem that has been decades, if not more than a century in the making, and we're not going to fix it by January 2024, the next legislative session. We're going to work collaboratively, work smart around these issues to make sure we fully understand the scope of the problem so that we can begin identifying actionable recommendations that are actionable in those different areas I mentioned: legislation, budget, education, alignment of resources, and the like.
Any other questions from the press?
Thank you, Kate Ryan with WTOP. I just had a quick question on members here today. Are you hearing also from victims of crime? Is there a restorative?
I think we have victims.
But is that part of this? We've seen, for example, the progress. Bowie State has the PS program. I was lucky enough to go to Jessup and hear from the gentleman taking part. It's changing the way they see themselves and their dynamics with their families, making re-entry possibly better. What about from the victim standpoint on this? What kind of input might they have?
Yep, victim advocacy groups are certainly welcome to this conversation. Look, in the 25 years I've been doing this, and I've spent a lot of time in Annapolis, spent a lot of time on the second floor as executive with the legislature, you don't get meaningful reform unless you can have consensus. Now, sometimes there's gridlock around issues, and our commitment and determination is to get beyond that gridlock. But you have to have consensus, and the way that you get consensus around items that you can move forward on, you have to have all voices at the table. So victim advocacy groups will have a voice in this collaborative. Yep, over here. There we go.
Any other press questions? Yeah.
Hi, Attorney General Brown, Dylan C. Plum, Baltimore Banner. I think you started to touch
Yeah, in some ways, it's similar to the process that my predecessor undertook, the Access to Justice Task Force during the pandemic, and it was a large collaboration of stakeholders looking at what the needs were during the pandemic to connect people to resources, legal resources, community resources, to avoid engagement with both the civil and the criminal justice system. And if you look at that task force, it was comprehensive in scope and in membership. So it was important to me. The first phone call that I made was to the public defender, because as your question suggests, I have one perspective. I have multiple perspectives within my office, but I don't have all the perspectives that need to come to bear and to understand this issue. So that's why my first call was to the public defender. The public defender is closer to the ground than the Office of the Attorney General is. I have no problem saying that. The nature of their work, they have a sense of what's happening in the community, perhaps as good or better than any other organization that's funded by state dollars. But when you see the collaborative behind me, and those who are not here and will be part of it, represent so many different segments of Maryland, right? The business community, the nonprofit community, academia, government, within government, different perspectives, different agencies, different organizations. And that's how we're going to really get our hands around the full scope of the problem and identify the solutions. It could not be something that could be done alone in the Office of the Attorney General, no matter how talented we may be.
And I would just like to add the component that there is a recognition that the laws must be fair and they must be applied fairly to all individuals. And there is that recognition that in order to do so, we all have to come together to look at what exists and make the necessary changes regardless of the respective roles that we hold. And that is the essence of the MEJC, to make sure that what we have, we understand is not working, it is not fair for everyone, and we have the ability, and it's now our duty to make a difference.
No further questions from the press? Good.
Thanks, everyone, and bear with us as we transition to the sort of the second half of today's program. Thank you.